Okay guys, back again today. Brian here working on our Formula 350. Today what we're going to be focusing on is beginning the process of installing the cylinder heads back into the car again. We're still working on doing the engine bay cleanup. I'll probably be taking care of that for the next video and showing what I do there. Today what I'm going to work on really is getting the cylinder heads prepped for our reinstall and getting those ready to go. I'm not going to be doing a complete rebuild of our cylinder head. Essentially what I'm going to do is clean it up, and since I've already got my Felpro kit came in with my head gaskets and other things that I need, even my head bolts here that came in and are ready to go. I've even with sealant installed on them already, which is a nice thing. We also got a set of valve seals to come with the motor. So today what I'm going to do real quick is we're going to clean this head up and remove these springs and everything so I can get in there and get some of this grime and stuff out of here. Now you can see I've already started on this one here. Normally on the bench what I would do is there's a vice grip type looking spring compressor that attaches to the bottom side and holds the valve in place while you compress these springs so you can get these spring retainers out right here. But since I don't have that, I'm kind of working off the cuff, so I'm just using a block of wood to hold my my valve in place while I use the jaw style spring compressor and go ahead and take this. Now what I've done is I've compressed this spring down, and now I am removing my spring keepers right here. So these actually were a little bit stuck, they didn't want to come out. But you can take that magnet and pull those out of there and make sure you don't lose them because the keepers are small enough to where they'll get lost. Let me turn that around a little bit so we can get to there. And of course I'm diving right into this, and once I've got those off, okay, got my spring is ready to come off, so I can just go straight up with this now. Well, I should actually, let me take my puller apart first so I can get this one-handed. Probably not. Okay, so what I'll probably have to do is do this off camera, guys, because I need both my hands to get that. But you can see essentially what I'm doing is compressing the spring and getting that off. So I'm going to go ahead and start there so I can get the rest of the head disassembled so that I can soak it and some of the heavy duty degreaser that we've got right here and just basically clean it up. We're not going crazy with it, I just want to clean it up a little bit, but it's actually in pretty good shape already. And of course I've already kind of pre-washed this over at the car wash already. So let me get this off of here real quick and I'll show you guys what this next steps or what it needs to get those keepers out of there. I'll be right back. Okay, we were able to get that off of there, of course with two hands instead of one. So you can see there that there is your spring assembly with your retainer on top. Of course I put my keepers inside there. It's actually a pretty simple device. There's your upper end of your valve right there, and of course the O-ring is disintegrated over time, so it's probably better that I honestly did this because the O-ring is hard and messed up. So what I'll do here is clean that off real quick. And of course the seal that I really wanted to change, my set came with a new set of seals. Of course there's our seals. Now these are for the intake side, and you notice the plastic ones are for the exhaust side. So these would be the ones that you'll see on the intake side, so on the intake valve. So let me flip this real quick to this side. We'll pull this valve out, and you can see here, there's our valve coming out and sticking, of course, being stubborn because it's been in there for a while. Now of course I'm not doing, like I said, a complete rebuild here. I'm just basically doing things to clean up the chambers with the miles on the car. Of course too, what I'm kind of doing here now, just off the cuff, is making sure that my surfaces are flat. Of course this is not a flat piece of wood, so it's not helping that much. But I want to make sure that there's no glaring warpage in the head. Now of course these are iron heads, so if this had overheated to the point to warp the heads, you would have damaged the motor as well. So what I'll do too is I'll take another measurement of this once we're cleaned up and everything, because I'm noticing a little tiny bit of gap there, but that may just be because the gasket material is still on it. So I'll check that later. But that's essentially removing that valve there. So I'm going to bag this up. Of course, keep that, and give me a second to bag this up, and I'll show you guys the complete procedure of pulling each one of these valves out of here so I can take care of this. So I'll be right back. Next, what we're going to do is go ahead and pull out this number one. This would be our exhaust valve. I'm working from right to left, so to left to right. But basically, since these keepers have been in this motor for 32 years, they don't really want to come out very well. So what I'm going to do is kind of give them a little bit of incentive to get out of there. So I'm just going to take a regular old 5mm on top of there in the center of that retainer right there, because my keepers are right there in the middle. And I'm going to go ahead and just snap it. A couple of times I'm going to wrap it just to break them loose, okay? Then what I'm going to do then is take my jaw puller and go underneath here. Get to this spot here, and let's see what happens as we come down to this. And let's see here. Get the puller in the right spot. Hang on. Let's see what this does. And as you can see, those keepers don't really want to come out, but what I'll do is have to work on these off camera and get those out of there. So they're going to take a little bit more force to get to them. I just wanted to show you guys the process of working these out of here. So I'm going to work on these off camera, and I'll get back to you when I'm done there. Be right back. Okay, I'm back here with our finished removal of the valve springs and what am I trying to say? The valve springs and the valves and the retainers and such. So you see I've just got them bagged up here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Remember for myself on the video later, I went right to left so I don't get confused. But anyway, yeah, so that's what our finished head looks like, partially disassembled. Now, you know, basically from here you would need to send it to a machine shop if you were going to do anything like change these valve seats out or anything else, but I'm not going to be focusing on that. All I essentially want to do is clean this head up a little bit, because it's honestly in pretty good shape. From what I can see, I don't really see any damage or anything like that to it. It just needs to be cleaned up. So really what I'm going to do first is go ahead and put this, either I got a flatness or a warpage. Nah. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the little tub right here so that I can go ahead and spray it with some heavy-duty degreaser. Kind of put it in a bath right here. And then I'm going to let it soak for a little while. And then we'll come back to it and see what we've got, see how well this stuff is going to work for me. So I'm just going to spray this down pretty liberally. Coat this thing with it, with this stuff. And I usually keep it in these tubs so that I can keep track of that cleaner. And I'm just going to spray that puppy down. And I'm going to let it sit for a little while while my phone recharges. And then we're going to go on this side here. And then what I'll do is once it sits for a little while, I'll get the underside as well. Actually, I'll probably flip it right now and do that. I'm just dousing everything to make my job easier when I come in for my final cleanup here. Let's turn this head over this way so I can get to the bottom side. You can actually see how much stuff is coming off of there already. This is a pretty good degreaser right here that I'm using. It's kind of an oil-filled application, but it works pretty well for what I'm doing here. So I am Gonna let this sit after dousing it here. All right, and then what we'll do is we'll begin to clean the surfaces. So I'll be back in a few minutes, guys, once I've let it sit, so hang tight. All right, guys, back now with our cylinder head cleaned up a little bit here. We still got a couple spots we're gonna work on here later, but for the most part, we got a lot of the loose stuff knocked off of this, other than just the gasket material now that I'm gonna have to get off of here, and of course carbon buildup from just the years. You can see here kind of looking, you know, the intake side's pretty clean right there, but then over here we've got quite a bit, and of course these are the exhaust sides, so you always get a little more excessive exhaust on the exhaust side. So essentially what I'm gonna be doing is cleaning up 3 different areas, surface areas here. We've got one obviously here where my cylinder is going to mate, or my head's going to mate to my cylinders, to my short block with my head gasket. And of course over here we've got our intake manifold gasket where you still got some of the material left here. And then on this side we're going to clean it up where our valve cover gasket. So essentially we've got 3 mating surfaces. Probably won't need to clean up our exhaust manifold side, since these didn't even come. Well, actually I will clean these up a little bit just because they're dirty, but these actually didn't come with exhaust manifold gaskets from the factory. Now I may go ahead and put those in just as an extra insurance, but we'll see how it goes. And with these I'm not really going to get into a whole lot of trying to repaint and make them look all shiny, simply because they're covered up by all the exhaust manifold, the intake manifold, and everything else. But you can see here I'm just using Scotch-Brite pad on the end of my drill here, and all I'm going to do is just go over this, you know, like this, and basically what that's going to do is clean up that surface right there. So I may need to get a little bit softer one there. That one's a little bit more than I want it to be, but I'm going to clean this up a little bit, and I'll be back with you guys in just a second. Hang tight. All right, working on the intake side, you can kind of see how that cleans up that surface material there. So again, I'm just going to be going, again, this is just a Scotch-Brite pad on the end of my drill. And you can get these the body refinishing section. And so it's a really good way to take off excess gasket material and get it out of there. Make sure your surface is really clean for when you get your stuff back on there again. So I'm gonna end up having to do this two-handed because I can't control the drill with the one hand, just because. So I'll be back with you guys in a few minutes. Hang on. All right, guys, back as I rapidly lose my daylight cleaning this bad boy up. But you can see here I've got my intake side nice and clean for ready for prep, or actually reinstallation of our new gaskets there. You can kind of see, of course, with older cylinder heads, you can see where that water gets a little bit, that antifreeze mix, it's a little bit with time eats away at the surface. Not bad, but just something to be noticing after, you know, 30 plus years when you're looking at parts and dissimilar chemicals and things running through them, but nothing bad here. Still need to go ahead and clean out these threads before I put it back together. We've got our upper surface cleaned off, and of course, for reason 796 of why you don't want to use head gasket sealant on a motor. Let's tilt this over so you can see. Still working on the bottom side. I'm going to finish cleaning that up off camera, but you can see I've got all this cleaned up over here. My drill just actually ran out of battery juice. I'm trying to get a lot of this out of here, and of course I'm trying to scrape as much off as I can. But you can see here, over here, this is all that sealant as it poured into the bad spots and just filled it in. Now it's just almost darn near impossible to get off of here. But I'll work on this more tomorrow and finish it up. And you know, I may make another video of reassembling the head, but you can see how I basically took it apart here on the bench. I didn't do anything crazy. And again, one more final check just to make sure I've got my trusty Westcott stainless steel ruler straight edge, so I can look at it now that I've cleaned it up a little bit, and I can see that I'm looking pretty good. I don't see any warpage here. Cross there, get even. And then I move over just a little bit, and everything looks pretty good. Like I said, on an iron head motor, if you get that sucker hot enough to warp the heads, you pretty much melted the pistons or something else is internally damaged in that. So, and this is a fairly decent GM head, pre-Vortec kind of head. But anyway, that's going to wrap this up for cylinder head prep on the Formula 350 car that we're putting back together again. We started out as that upper TPI job. And if you haven't seen my previous videos, there's a link up here at the top of the video of the playlist I created. If you're just jumping in for the first time, I know YouTube kind of makes those recommendations. So up at the top there was that link to the playlist of everything I've done so far to tear this car back down. And yet another playlist for when I actually found this car a few years back and have been using it kind of as a semi-cruiser, weekend cruiser, but really neat car with a cool story behind it. So that's going to do it for tonight as our daylight fades. I appreciate everybody watching and checking in tonight, today, and I will check back with you guys probably no later than the weekend. So we'll see you then, guys. Thanks.